The Galactic Ambush, humanity's hidden arsenal revealed. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the EFS Vigilant, her eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The vast expanse of space stretched out in all directions, dotted with thousands of pinpricks of light representing the combined might of Earth's hidden fleet. For decades, humanity had maintained the illusion of a primitive, merely space-faring race, all while secretly building an armada capable of challenging the greatest powers in the galaxy. Status report, Chen barked, her voice steady despite the tension that crackled through the air like electricity. Lieutenant Rodriguez, her tactical officer, responded without taking his eyes off his console. All ships report ready. Admiral, the Zarn fleet is still unaware of our presence. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. The Zarn Imperium, self-proclaimed rulers of the Milky Way, had been a thorn in humanity's side since first contact 50 years ago. Their initial diplomatic overtures had quickly given way to thinly veiled threats and economic strong-arming. Earth's apparent helplessness in the face of superior technology had only emboldened them further. But that was about to change. Very well, Chen said, straightening her uniform. Commence Operation Thunderbolt. Across the fleet, fusion drives flared to life as over 1,000 warships dropped their stealth fields and accelerated towards the unsuspecting Zarn armada. The element of surprise was total. In the span of seconds, the hunters became the hunted. Aboard the Zarn flagship, the Eternal Dominion, High Commander Vexthor stared in disbelief at the tactical display. Where moments ago there had been nothing but empty space, now a sea of red indicators bloomed, each representing a human vessel that by all rights shouldn't exist. Impossible, he hissed, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Those primitive apes couldn't have hidden this from us. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zhao, was already barking orders to the fleet. Raise shields. Bring weapons online. All ships, combat formation Delta. But it was too late. The human fleet struck with devastating precision, their opening salvo tearing through the unprepared Zarn ships like tissue paper. Explosions blossomed in the void as cruiser after cruiser succumbed to the relentless assault. Back on the Vigilant, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Decades of preparation, of maintaining the facade of weakness while building in secret, were finally paying off. The Zarn had grown complacent, never imagining that the primitive apes could pose a real threat. "Ma'am," Rodriguez called out, his voice tight with excitement. "The enemy flagship is attempting to retreat. Your orders." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Not this time. All ships, focus fire on the Eternal Dominion. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed." The human fleet responded instantly, hundreds of energy beams and missile salvos converging on a single point. The Zarn flagship's shields held for a moment, then collapsed under the onslaught. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as systems overloaded and failed. "We have them, Admiral," Rodriguez reported. "Their engines are offline, and they're venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches." Chen nodded, allowing herself a moment of triumph before focusing on the next phase. "Prepare boarding parties. I want High Commander Vexthor brought to me alive." As the rest of the Zarn fleet scattered or surrendered, Chen turned her attention to the disabled flagship. This was more than just a military victory. It was a statement to the entire galaxy. Humanity would no longer be pushed around or treated as a primitive backwater. The boarding action was swift and decisive. Earth's Marines, clad in powered armor that would have seemed like magic to the Zarn just hours ago, cut through the alien ship's defenses with ruthless efficiency. Chen watched the helmet cam feeds as her troops fought their way to the bridge, where a cornered Vexthor awaited. When the Zarn commander was finally brought before her, Chen was struck by how small and frail he looked up close. The fearsome alien warlord who had terrorized a quarter of the galaxy now seemed almost pitiful. "How?" Vexthor rasped, his translated voice filled with a mixture of fear and awe. "How did you hide all of this from us?" Chen allowed herself a small, cold smile. You saw what you expected to see, Commander. You believed us weak and primitive because it fit your preconceptions. You never bothered to look deeper. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. But now the galaxy will know the truth. Humanity will no longer hide in the shadows. We're here to claim our place among the stars. And woe to anyone who stands in our way. As the stunned Vexthor was led away, Chen turned back to the viewport. The battle was over, but she knew this was just the beginning. Word of humanity's hidden strength would spread like wildfire through the galaxy. Some races would seek alliance, others would plot against this new threat to the status quo. One thing was certain: the age of human timidity was over. A new era had begun, and Admiral Sarah Chen intended to see humanity not just survive, but thrive in this brave new world. As the Vigilance engines hummed to life, preparing to lead the fleet back to Earth, Chen allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had won the day, but the real challenges were just beginning. The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But humanity had faced long odds before and triumphed. Whatever came next, they would face it head-on, no longer pretending to be less than they were. The shock of their revelation would ripple through the cosmos, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 2. Counterattack. Earth strikes back. The news of humanity's stunning victory over the Zarn Imperium spread through the galaxy like wildfire. In the weeks that followed, Earth found itself at the center of a diplomatic maelstrom. Some alien races, long chafing under Zarn dominance, rushed to establish friendly relations with this newly revealed power. Others, fearful of the upset to the galactic balance, began to whisper of containment and preemptive action. Admiral Sarah Chen, hailed as the hero of the hour, found little time to savor the triumph. She knew better than anyone that their initial victory, while impressive, had only bought them time. The Zarn Imperium was vast, controlling thousands of worlds across multiple spiral arms. They would not take this humiliation lying down. "We've intercepted communications from deep in Zarn space," Intelligence Officer Malik reported during a high-level briefing. "They're mobilizing everything they have. Conservative estimates put their response fleet at 10 times the size of the force we defeated." President Ilara Vasquez, the first human leader to truly grasp the scale of galactic politics, leaned forward in her chair. "Options." Chen didn't hesitate. "We strike first. Hit them before they can fully organize. We have the element of surprise. They still don't know the full extent of our capabilities." There were murmurs of agreement around the table, but General Thomas Rise, head of Earth's ground forces, raised a hand in caution. "We can't leave Earth undefended. If we commit everything to an offensive, we risk leaving ourselves open to a counterattack. Not to mention the logistics of such an operation," Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka added. "We'd be operating far from our supply lines, in enemy territory." Chen nodded, acknowledging their concerns. "That's why we don't go in alone. We've received overtures from several races who've suffered under Zarn rule. The All-Theory, the Novan Collective, even the Krex Hives. If we can form a coalition." President Vasquez's eyes lit up. "A united front against Zarn aggression. It's risky, but it could work." She turned to the holographic display dominating the center of the room. "Show me the potential battle lines." As the strategic projections flickered to life, Chen felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. This was what humanity had prepared for all these years, not just to defend themselves, but to reshape the galaxy into a place where Earth could truly thrive. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Diplomatic channels, dormant for decades, suddenly hummed with traffic as Earth reached out to potential allies. Chen found herself shuttling between strategy sessions and meetings with alien dignitaries, many of whom were seeing the human in person for the first time. The All-Theory, a race of crystalline beings known for their logical minds and advanced technology, were the first to formally join the alliance. Their ambassador, a being that looked like a walking geometry lesson, expressed admiration for humanity's long-game strategy. To hide in plain sight for so long, to turn apparent weakness into strength, the Altheri said, its facets glittering. Most impressive. We look forward to learning from you. The Novan Collective, a loose federation of aquatic species, brought valuable intelligence on Zarn fleet movements. Their distributed consciousness allowed them to process vast amounts of data, giving the Alliance a crucial edge in predicting the enemy's next move. But it was the Krex hives that truly tipped the balance. Insectoid warriors feared across the galaxy for their ferocity in battle. The Krex had long resisted Zarn encroachment on their territory. Their queen mothers, linked by a psychic bond, pledged their full support to the human-led coalition. For too long, the Zarn have sought to exterminate us. The lead queen mother buzzed, her mandibles clicking in agitation. Together, we shall break their power once and for all. As the coalition fleet assembled in the shadow of Jupiter, Chen couldn't help but marvel at the sight. Ships of a dozen different designs and technologies, crewed by beings that would have seemed like fantasy just months ago, all united under a common cause. It was a far cry from the scrappy, hidden fleet she had led into battle against the Zarn. Final checks complete. Admiral Rodriguez reported, his voice tinged with excitement. All ships report ready for jump. Chen nodded, her eyes sweeping across the bridge of the Vigilant. Every member of her crew stood tall, pride and determination evident in their bearing. They knew the stakes. This wasn't just about Earth anymore, but the future of the entire galaxy. Send the signal, Chen ordered, her voice carrying across the command channel to every ship in the fleet. All vessels, prepare for hyperjump. Our destination is the Zarn core worlds. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every race that has suffered under Zarn tyranny. Today, we show the galaxy that the age of oppression is over. As one, the massive fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. In a dazzling display of light and energy, they vanished from the solar system, hurtling towards destiny. The journey took days, even at FTL speeds. Chen used the time to fine-tune their battle plans, coordinating with the diverse alien commanders to ensure smooth integration of their forces. The Altheri's energy weapons complemented Earth's kinetic arsenal, while the Krex's swarming tactics would keep the enemy off balance. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace on the edge of Zarn territory, they found exactly what they had hoped for: a massive enemy fleet, but one caught in the middle of deployment. Ships were still moving into formation, caught flat-footed by the speed of the coalition's advance. All ships, battle stations. Chen's voice rang out. Execute Operation Spearhead. The coalition fleet split into pre-arranged attack groups, each targeting a specific section of the Zarn Armée. Earth's ships, their stealth systems once again proving their worth, slipped through the enemy's outer defenses to strike at their command and control nodes. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Energy beams crisscrossed the void, while swarms of Krex fighters darted between capital ships like angry insects. Novan vessels, capable of instant short-range teleportation, appeared and disappeared in flashes of light, sowing chaos in the Zarn ranks. At the heart of it all was the Vigilant, Chen directing the flow of battle with the precision of a master conductor. Group Theta pressed the attack on their left flank. Krex squadrons, I need you to take out those destroyer screens. Altheri cruisers, target their flagship's engines. We can't let them escape this time. For hours, the battle raged across an entire star system. Planets and moons became waypoints in a deadly dance, their gravity wells used for slingshot maneuvers and ambush points. The Zarn fought with the desperation of a cornered animal, but they were outmatched by the coalition's superior tactics and technology. As the last Zarn dreadnought fell silent, its hull breached and venting atmosphere, Chen allowed herself a moment of quiet celebration. They had done it, dealt a blow to the heart of the Zarn Imperium that it might never recover from. But even as the cheers of victory echoed through the Vigilance halls, Chen's mind was already racing ahead. This was a major triumph, yes, but the war was far from over. The Czarn still controlled vast swathes of the galaxy, and other powers would be watching Earth's rise with wary eyes. As she prepared to address the Coalition fleet, Chen realized that humanity's greatest challenges and greatest opportunities still lay ahead. They had proven themselves on the galactic stage. Now came the hard part, building a lasting peace in a universe that had known only conflict for millennia. The stars beckoned, filled with promise and peril in equal measure. But Earth and its allies were ready to face whatever came next, united in their determination to forge a better future for all. Infiltration and betrayal. The enemy within. In the months following the stunning victory over the Czarn Imperium, Earth and its coalition allies worked tirelessly to consolidate their gains. Admiral Sarah Chen found herself thrust into the unfamiliar world of galactic politics, shuttling between diplomatic conferences and strategy sessions as humanity adjusted to its new role as a major power. But even as they celebrated their triumphs, a shadow was growing within the heart of the coalition. Not everyone was happy with Earth's sudden rise to prominence, and old rivalries and suspicions began to simmer beneath the surface of interspecies cooperation. It started small, minor disagreements over resource allocation, petty squabbles about chain of command. Chen dismissed these as the natural growing pains of a diverse alliance, but Lieutenant Rodriguez, ever vigilant, began to notice a pattern. "Ma'am," he said during a private briefing, his face creased with worry. "I've been analyzing comm traffic between our allies. There's something off about it. Coded messages, data packets hidden in routine transmissions. I think someone's planning something." Chen frowned, her mind racing. "Do we know who?" Rodriguez shook his head. "Not yet, but whoever it is, they're good. This level of encryption, the way they're covering their tracks, it's not amateur work." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. They had come too far, sacrificed too much, to let internal strife tear them apart now. "Keep digging," she ordered. "But keep it quiet. If there really is a conspiracy, we don't want to tip our hand." As Rodriguez dove deeper into his investigation, Chen found herself viewing her allies with new, suspicious eyes. The Altheri ambassador, once so impressed by human ingenuity, was his admiration genuine or a clever mask? The Novan Collective, with their vast data processing capabilities, what else might they be analyzing beyond enemy movements? And the Kreks? Chen shuddered. If the warrior race decided to turn on their allies, the devastation would be unimaginable. Weeks passed, tension building like a coiled spring. Chen slept less and less, poring over reports and security footage, searching for any clue that might reveal the traitors in their midst. She knew she was becoming paranoid, jumping at shadows, but the stakes were too high to ignore even the slightest possibility of betrayal. It all came to a head during a coalition summit on Mars. Representatives from all allied races had gathered to discuss the next phase of their campaign against the remnants of the Czarn Imperium. As Chen prepared to deliver the keynote address, Rodriguez burst into her ready room, his face pale. "We've been compromised," he gasped, struggling to catch his breath. "The Novans, they've been feeding information to the Czarn this whole time. And that's not all. They've planted bombs throughout the conference center. They're going to take out the entire coalition leadership in one strike." Chen's blood ran cold. If Rodriguez was right, they had mere minutes to prevent a catastrophe that would not only cripple the alliance, but potentially reignite the war they had fought so hard to win. Chen's mind raced as she sprinted down the corridors of the Martian conference center, Rodriguez hot on her heels. The evacuation alarm blared, but she knew it might already be too late. "Get me a secure line to Earth Defense Command," she shouted to Rodriguez as they ran. "We need every available ship in orbit now." As they burst into the main conference hall, chaos erupted. Alien diplomats of all shapes and sizes milled about in confusion, some heading for exits while others demanded explanations. Chen's eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of the Novan delegation. There, a group of shimmering, liquid-like forms near the back of the hall. Even as Chen watched, they began to coalesce into more solid shapes, tentacles morphing into crude approximations of humanoid limbs. "Everyone out," Chen bellowed, her voice cutting through the din. "This is not a drill. Clear the building immediately." As panicked delegates streamed towards the exits, Chen and Rodriguez made their way to the Novan group. The lead Novan, its form constantly shifting and rippling, turned to face them. "Admiral Chen," it burbled, its voice a discordant mix of tones. "How unfortunate that you've discovered our little surprise so soon." Chen's hand went to her sidearm, but she knew it would be useless against the Novan's amorphous bodies. "Why?" she demanded. "We trusted you. We fought together." The Novan's surface rippled in what might have been a shrug. "The Zarn offered us something you couldn't. Total control of our home sectors. Free from interference. Did you really think we'd be content to play second fiddle to humans?" A low rumble shook the building, and Chen's comm unit crackled to life. "Admiral, we've located several explosive devices throughout the structure. We're working on disarming them, but..." Another, louder explosion cut off the transmission. The floor beneath them buckled, and Chen stumbled, barely keeping her footing. "It's too late," the Novan said, its body already beginning to flow towards a nearby air vent. "The coalition ends today." Chen gritted her teeth, her mind working furiously. They couldn't stop all the bombs, but maybe they could contain the damage. "Rodriguez," she snapped, "get to the control center. See if you can lock down the building's blast doors. We need to compartmentalize the explosions." As Rodriguez dashed off, Chen turned back to the retreating Novans. "This isn't over," she called after them. "You've made a terrible mistake." The next few minutes were a blur of action. Chen coordinated with security teams, directing them to prioritize the most critical areas of the conference center. All the while, more explosions rocked the building, each one sending shards of fear through her heart. Just when it seemed the entire structure would come down around them, an eerie silence fell. Chen held her breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Her comm unit crackled again. "Admiral," Rodriguez's voice came through, tight with tension but alive. I think we got them all. The building's secure." Chen allowed herself a moment of relief before the grim reality of the situation set in. They had prevented total disaster, but the damage was done. The coalition, so painstakingly assembled, now teetered on the brink of collapse. As she made her way through the smoke-filled corridors, checking on injured delegates and coordinating rescue efforts, Chen's mind was already racing ahead. The Novan's betrayal changed everything. How deep did the conspiracy go? Who else might be working against them from within? Hours later, as the dust settled and the full scope of the attack became clear, Chen stood before the remaining coalition leaders. Faces that had once looked to her with respect and admiration now showed fear, suspicion, and barely concealed anger. "I know you all have questions," she began, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "And believe me, I intend to get answers. But right now, we need to focus on what's important. The Novans and their Zarn allies thought this attack would destroy us. Instead, it's given us an opportunity." She paused, meeting each alien gaze in turn. "We can let this drive us apart, succumb to paranoia and infighting. Or we can use it to make our alliance stronger, to root out any other traitors and recommit ourselves to our shared goal. A galaxy free from tyranny and oppression." There was a long moment of silence. Then, slowly, nods of agreement began to spread through the assembled leaders. The Althiri ambassador stepped forward, its crystalline form glinting in the emergency lights. "Earth has proven its strength once again," it said. "We stand with you, Admiral Chen." One by one, the other races pledged their continued support. Even the Kreks, normally so quick to aggression, seemed to recognize the need for unity in the face of this new threat. As the impromptu council broke up, each delegation heading off to contact their homeworlds and assess the damage, Chen allowed herself a small sigh of relief. They had weathered the storm, But she knew the real work was just beginning. The Novan betrayal had shaken the coalition to its core. Rebuilding trust would be a monumental task, and all the while, the remnants of the Zarn Imperium would be watching, waiting for any sign of weakness. But as Chen looked out over the battered but unbroken conference center, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had revealed themselves to the galaxy and toppled an empire. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Earth and its true allies would face them together. The war for the galaxy's future was far from over, but with determination, unity, and the element of surprise still on their side, Chen knew they stood a fighting chance. As she turned to leave, already planning their next move, a thought struck her. The Novan's betrayal was a setback, yes, but it was also an opportunity. Now they knew who their true enemies were, and in the vast, uncharted expanses of space, there were surely other races waiting to be discovered, potential allies who shared their vision of a free and just galaxy. The stars still beckoned, filled with both promise and peril, and humanity, tested by fire and betrayal, was ready to answer their call. The final push, humanity's last stand. The aftermath of the Novan betrayal sent shockwaves through the coalition. Trust, once freely given, now came at a premium. Every decision, every strategy session, was tinged with suspicion. But even as they grappled with this new reality, reports began to flood in from the edges of known space. The Zarn were on the move again. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, her face grim as she studied the patterns of enemy fleet movements. The remnants of the Zarn Imperium, bolstered by their Novan allies, had regrouped faster than anyone had anticipated. They were pushing hard against the coalition's outer defenses, probing for weaknesses. "They're testing us," Chen murmured, her eyes narrowed. "Seeing how we respond, looking for cracks in our unity." General Thomas Reyes, his face lined with new scars from the Mars attack, nodded in agreement. "And they're not being subtle about it. These strikes are designed to provoke us, to force us into making mistakes." Chen turned to face the assembled War Council, a mix of human military leaders and representatives from their remaining alien allies. The Altheri ambassador's crystalline form glittered nervously, while the Krek's Queen Mother's mandibles clicked with barely suppressed agitation. "We can't afford to be reactive," Chen said, her voice carrying across the room. "If we let them dictate the tempo of this war, we've already lost. We need to take the fight to them, hit them where they least expect it." There were murmurs of agreement, but also notes of caution. The coalition fleet, while still formidable, had been stretched thin trying to protect a vast swath of space. Every ship committed to an offensive was one less defending their hard-won territories. As the debate raged on, Lieutenant Rodriguez slipped into the room, his face pale. He made his way to Chen's side and whispered urgently in her ear. The Admiral's eyes widened, and she held up a hand for silence. "We've just received word from our long-range scouts," she announced, her voice tight. "The Zarn have assembled a massive fleet near the Omega Nebula. Early estimates put their numbers at least 3 times our combined strength." A hush fell over the room, broken only by the soft hum of holographic displays and the nervous shuffling of feet. Everyone knew what this meant. The Zarn were preparing for a final, all-out assault. If they broke through, the coalition would crumble, and Earth itself would be left vulnerable. Chen took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she knew had to come next. "We can't wait for them to strike. We need to take the fight to them, now, before they can fully mobilize." Protests erupted immediately. "But Admiral," one of the human captains argued, "even with every ship we can muster, we'd be outnumbered and outgunned. It would be suicide." "Perhaps," Chen conceded, "but it's our only chance. If we let them come to us, pick us apart piece by piece, the result will be the same, only slower, and with more suffering." She turned back to the galactic map, her finger tracing a path through the stars. "We'll make our stand here, in the Omega Nebula. The electromagnetic interference will disrupt their communications, level the playing field somewhat, and if we can draw them deep enough into the nebula. Understanding dawned on the faces around her. The Omega Nebula was notorious for its volatile gas pockets and unpredictable energy discharges. It was a dangerous battlefield, but one that could potentially negate some of the Zarn's numerical advantage. "It's still a long shot," Rice said, but there was a note of hope in his voice now. "But if anyone can pull it off, it's you, Sarah." Chen nodded, grateful for the vote of confidence. "We'll need every ship, every fighter we can muster. And we'll need to move fast, before the Zarn realize what we're up to." As the War Council broke up, each member rushing to prepare their forces for the coming battle, Chen found herself alone with the Altheri ambassador. The crystalline being's facets shimmered with what might have been concern. "Admiral," it said, its voice a melody of chiming tones, "I must ask, do you truly believe we can win this fight?" Chen was silent for a long moment, considering her words carefully. "I believe," she said at last, "that we have to try. Not just for Earth, or for your people, or any single race, but for the future of this galaxy. If we fall here, the Zarn will dominate for millennia to come. I won't let that happen." The Altheri's crystalline structure pulsed with light, a gesture Chen had come to recognize as agreement. "Then we stand with you, Admiral. To victory, or to oblivion." As the Coalition fleet assembled for what might be its final battle, Chen found herself thinking of home, of Earth, blue and beautiful, and all they had fought to protect. Whatever happened in the Omega Nebula, she swore to herself that humanity's homeworld would remain free. The journey to the nebula was tense, every ship's crew on high alert for Zarn scouts or ambushes. But they made it without incident, slipping into the swirling clouds of gas and energy that marked the nebula's boundary. Chen stood on the bridge of the Vigilant, watching as the rest of the fleet took up its positions. The plan was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, to draw the Zarn deep into the nebula, then spring a trap that would use the volatile environment against them. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Rodriguez said, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his posture. A new dawn, reshaping the galaxy. The Omega Nebula blazed with the light of 1,000 suns as the Coalition and Zarn fleets clashed in a titanic struggle. Energy beams lanced through clouds of ionized gas, while swarms of fighters darted between capital ships like angry insects. The very fabric of space seemed to groan under the strain of the battle. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the heart of it all, her eyes darting between tactical displays as she coordinated the Coalition's desperate defense. The Vigilant shuddered under repeated impacts, its shields straining to hold back the enemy onslaught. Krek's squadrons pressed the attack on their left flank. Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Altheri cruisers, I need you to take out those Zarn dreadnoughts before they can bring their main guns to bear." For hours, the battle raged with no clear victor. The Coalition's superior tactics and the unpredictable nature of the nebula helped to even the odds, but the Zarn's sheer numbers were overwhelming. Ship after ship fell silent, their crews lost to the void. Just when it seemed the tide was turning against them, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cut through the din. "Admiral, we're picking up new contacts on the edge of the sensor range, a lot of them." Chen's heart sank. Had the Zarn managed to bring in reinforcements? Was this the end? But as the new arrivals drew closer, cheers erupted across the Coalition comms. It wasn't Zarn reinforcements at all. It was a vast fleet of ships unlike anything they had ever seen before. Sleek, organic-looking vessels that moved with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with what looked like pure energy. A new voice, melodious and ethereal, echoed across all frequencies. "People of Earth and their allies, we are the Lumini. We have watched your struggle from afar, and we can no longer stand idle. Allow us to stand with you against the tyranny of the Zarn." Chen felt a surge of hope as the Lumini fleet engaged the enemy. Their weapons were beyond anything she had ever seen. cutting through Zarn defenses like they weren't even there. With this unexpected reinforcement, the tide of battle began to turn. Hours passed in a blur of tactical decisions and desperate gambles. Chen lost track of time, focused entirely on the ebb and flow of the fight. And then, suddenly, it was over. The remaining Zarn ships, their formations shattered and their flagship a drifting wreck, turned and flowed into the depths of space. As the realization of victory slowly sank in, Chen allowed herself to slump in her chair, exhaustion finally overtaking her. They had done it. Against all odds, they had won. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. As the coalition fleet limped home, Chen found herself thrust into a new role, not just military leader, but diplomat and peacemaker. The Lumini, it turned out, were representatives of a highly advanced civilization from the other side of the galaxy. They had been observing younger races for millennia, waiting for the right moment to make contact. Your victory over the Zarn proved that humanity and its allies are ready to join the greater galactic community, the Lumini ambassador explained during a summit on Earth. Its form was hard to look at directly, a shifting pattern of light and color that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Chen could perceive. But with this invitation comes great responsibility, the ambassador continued. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, but also dangers beyond your imagining. We offer our guidance and protection, but the path forward must be of your own choosing. Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the swirling chaos beyond the view screen. Then we wait, she said softly. And we hope they take the bait. They didn't have to wait long. Within hours, the first Zarn scouts appeared at the edge of the nebula. Then more, and more. Soon, the coalition's sensors were awash with enemy contacts, a vast armada, just as the reports had warned. They're entering the nebula, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight. Looks like they're taking the bait. Chen's hands clenched at her sides. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of Earth, of the coalition, of the entire galaxy. Everything they had fought for came down to the next few hours. All ships, she said, her voice carrying across the entire fleet, prepare to engage. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Today, we make our stand. Today, we show the Zarn and anyone else who would threaten our freedom that humanity and its allies will not go quietly into the night. As the enemy fleet drew closer, Shen allowed herself one last thought of home, of all they stood to lose. Then she pushed it aside, focusing entirely on the battle to come. For Earth, she whispered. For the future. And with that, the final battle for the galaxy began. A new dawn, reshaping the galaxy. The Omega Nebula blazed with the light of 1,000 suns as the Coalition and Zarn fleets clashed in a titanic struggle. Energy beams lanced through clouds of ionized gas, while swarms of fighters darted between capital ships like angry insects. The very fabric of space seemed to groan under the strain of the battle. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the heart of it all, her eyes darting between tactical displays as she coordinated the coalition's desperate defense. The Vigilant shuddered under repeated impacts, its shield straining to hold back the enemy onslaught. Krek's squadrons pressed the attack on their left flank. Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Altheri cruisers, I need you to take out those Zarn dreadnoughts before they can bring their main guns to bear. For hours, the battle raged with no clear victor. The coalition's superior tactics and the unpredictable nature of the nebula helped to even the odds, but the Zarn's sheer numbers were overwhelming. Ship after ship fell silent, their crews lost to the void. Just when it seemed the tide was turning against them, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cut through the din. Admiral, we're picking up new contacts on the edge of the sensor range. A lot of them. Chen's heart sank. Had the Zarn managed to bring in reinforcements? Was this the end? But as the new arrivals drew closer, cheers erupted across the coalition comms. It wasn't Zarn reinforcements at all. It was a vast fleet of ships unlike anything they had ever seen before. Sleek, organic-looking vessels that moved with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with what looked like pure energy. A new voice, melodious and ethereal, echoed across all frequencies. People of Earth and their allies, we are the Lumini. We have watched your struggle from afar, and we can no longer stand idle. Allow us to stand with you against the tyranny of the Zarn. Chen felt a surge of hope as the Lumini fleet engaged the enemy. Their weapons were beyond anything she had ever seen, cutting through Zarn defenses like they weren't even there. With this unexpected reinforcement, the tide of battle began to turn. Hours passed in a blur of tactical decisions and desperate gambles. Chen lost track of time, focused entirely on the ebb and flow of the fight. And then, suddenly, it was over. The remaining Zarn ships, their formation shattered and their flagship a drifting wreck, turned and flowed into the depths of space. As the realization of victory slowly sank in, Chen allowed herself to slump in her chair, exhaustion finally overtaking her. They had done it. Against all odds, they had won. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. As the coalition fleet limped home, Chen found herself thrust into a new role, not just military leader, but diplomat and peacemaker. The Lumini, it turned out, were representatives of a highly advanced civilization from the other side of the galaxy. They had been observing younger races for millennia, waiting for the right moment to make contact. Your victory over the Zarn proved that humanity and its allies are ready to join the greater galactic community, the Lumini ambassador explained during a summit on Earth. Its form was hard to look at directly, a shifting pattern of light and color that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Chen could perceive. But with this invitation comes great responsibility. The ambassador continued. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, but also dangers beyond your imagining. We offer our guidance and protection, but the path forward must be of your own choosing. As the summit progressed, Chen found her mind reeling with the possibilities. The Lumini spoke of technologies that bordered on magic, of worlds and civilizations that defied description. But they also warned of ancient threats lurking in the dark between the stars, of cosmic horrors that made even the Zarn pale in comparison. In the end, it was decided that Earth would take its place as a full member of the galactic community, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. The coalition, strengthened by its trial by fire, would form the core of a new interstellar alliance dedicated to mutual defense and scientific advancement. As the dust settled, and the galaxy entered a new era of peace and cooperation, Admiral Sarah Chen found herself at the center of it all. Her tactical brilliance and leadership during the final battle had made her a hero not just to humanity, but to countless alien races as well. Standing on the observation deck of the newly christened Earth Embassy on the Lumini homeworld, Chen gazed out at the swirling, iridescent clouds that made up the planet's atmosphere. It was a far cry from the smoke-filled war rooms and battered starship bridges she had grown accustomed to over the years. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Chen turned to see Lieutenant, now Captain Rodriguez approaching, a smile on his face. "It certainly is," she agreed. "Sometimes I still can't believe we made it here." Rodriguez nodded, his expression growing serious. "We lost a lot of good people along the way." "We did," Chen said softly, memories of fallen comrades flashing through her mind. "But their sacrifices weren't in vain. Look at what we've achieved." And indeed, the achievements were staggering. In the months since the final battle, humanity and its allies had made leaps and bounds in technology and understanding. Lumini mentors were helping to unlock secrets of the universe that Earth's greatest scientists had only dreamed of. Faster-than-light travel was being refined to allow for near-instantaneous transportation across the galaxy. Medical breakthroughs were extending lifespans and curing diseases once thought incurable. But perhaps most importantly, the spirit of cooperation that had been forged in the crucible of war was blossoming into something truly remarkable. Races that had once been bitter enemies were now working side by side, sharing knowledge and resources for the betterment of all. "We've been invited to join the Galactic Council," Chen said, turning back to the view. "As full members with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." Rodriguez's eyebrows shot up. "That's big. Do you think we're ready?" Chen was silent for a moment, considering. "I think we have to be," she said at last. "The galaxy is changing, evolving. If we want to have a say in shaping its future, we need to step up and take our place at the table." As if on cue, a soft chime sounded, indicating an incoming transmission. Chen tapped her wrist communicator, and a holographic image sprang to life between them. It was President Vasquez, her face lined with the stress of recent events, but her eyes bright with excitement. "Admiral, Captain," she greeted them. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all, Madam President," Chen replied. "What can we do for you?" Vasquez took a deep breath. "The Senate has just voted. We're accepting the invitation to join the Galactic Council." Chen and Rodriguez exchanged a look of mingled excitement and apprehension. This was it, the moment that would truly mark humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. "There's more," Vasquez continued. "The Council has expressed a desire for Earth to take a leading role in a new initiative. They want us to head up an exploratory mission to the uncharted regions beyond the galactic core." Chen felt a familiar thrill run through her. The unknown, the challenge of venturing into uncharted territory. It was what had driven her throughout her career. "It's dangerous," Vasquez warned. "We don't know what's out there, but the potential benefits to scientific knowledge, to our understanding of the universe, it's unprecedented." "When do we leave?" Chen asked without hesitation. Vasquez smiled, clearly having expected this response. "The mission is still in the planning stages, but I want you to lead it, Sarah. You and your team have proven yourselves time and time again. There's no one I trust more to represent Earth out there." As the president's image faded away, Chen turned back to the alien vista before her. The galaxy stretched out, vast and mysterious, filled with wonders and dangers yet to be discovered. "Well, Captain," she said to Rodriguez, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth, "it looks like our next adventure is just beginning." Rodriguez grinned back. "Wouldn't have it any other way, Admiral." As they stood there, gazing out at the shimmering nebula and distant stars, Chen felt a sense of profound gratitude. They had faced extinction, fought against impossible odds, and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or subjugation, but through courage, ingenuity, and an unwavering commitment to a better future for all. The challenges ahead were daunting, to be sure. There were still threats lurking in the darkness between the stars, ancient mysteries waiting to be unraveled, and the ever-present risk of conflict in a galaxy teeming with diverse civilizations. But Chen knew that whatever they faced, they would face it together, not just as humans, but as part of a greater galactic community. As the first preparations for the grand expedition began, a palpable sense of excitement spread through Earth and its colonies. The spirit of exploration that had driven humanity to the stars was reignited, stronger than ever. Scientists, engineers, and adventurers from 100 worlds clamored to be part of the mission. Chen threw herself into the work, coordinating with Lumini scientists to outfit a fleet of cutting-edge exploration vessels. Each ship was a marvel of technology, capable of sustaining its crew for years in the void between galaxies if necessary. As the day of launch approached, Chen found herself standing once again on the bridge of a starship. The Vigilant II was a far cry from its war-tested predecessor. Sleeker, faster, equipped with sensors and defensive systems that would have seemed like magic just a few years ago. Looking out at the assembled fleet, Chen felt a swell of pride. This was humanity's true destiny, not as conquerors or victims, but as explorers and peacekeepers. They had earned their place among the stars, and now they would help chart the course for the galaxy's future. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Rodriguez said from his station. Chen nodded, a smile playing across her lips. "Then let's not keep the universe waiting. Helm, set course for the galactic core. Let's see what's out there. As the fleet engaged its drives, disappearing into the shimmering depths of faster-than-light travel, Chen couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. The galaxy, no, the universe, was vast beyond imagining, full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. And humanity, once a tiny speck clinging to an unremarkable planet, was now poised to play a pivotal role in shaping the cosmic story. Whatever lay ahead, be it wonders beyond imagining or challenges that would test them to their very core, Chen knew one thing for certain. The greatest adventure was just beginning.